been a little bit crazy getting ready for this presentation. I just had a very sick patient, actually with malnutrition. Interestingly enough, she had a significant exposure about a month ago to some fungus and mold within her carpeting in her apartment. She just was getting sicker and sicker and found that she had a significant mold issue, and now on top of that has fungus and Lyme bacteria, and just really sick. So I'm just kind of skating in, ready to go right now. So malnutrition is something that I think is a pandemic here in the United States. First off, though, this is me. I'm Dr. Giles. I love teaching people about health and wellness, and I'm a wellness coach for other doctors and patients, and I truly enjoy this, what I do for my living. But malnutrition is an epidemic in the United States, but it's not what you usually think. So malnutrition comes from many forms. One, not eating enough, the usual first impression. Two, eating too much. And three, not eating the good foods, the right foods. So I had a little patient that looks very much like this little fellow on the left. His tummy was very big. He was just a year, but he was having failure to thrive syndrome. He was adopted from Haiti, and his tummy looked just like this, just a big round tummy. And he had lived in an orphanage, laid on his back for that first 6 months or so. When his parents picked him up, he had failure to thrive syndrome. And so as we checked him out, he had a large parasite. It showed for treating him with macrocyte. So we started, and I told his parents, you might be surprised at what happens here, but he might pass some things out of his bowel because he's been in Haiti, and you know what kind of water he's been drinking in his bottle and so forth. So the husband said, as he came back a week later, said, I thought you were a quack when you told us what might happen, and I was skeptic because you're a chiropractor, and I just was skeptical. But as we gave him this nutrition, and the second day, I was in one end of the house, and my wife was in the other end, and she was changing his diaper, and he said I could smell it from the other end of the house. So I went in to see what was up, and the little boy had just passed two large, probably about a ½ inch by 6-inch slugs, two of them, and they said made like just thousands of black little thread-like, probably the larvae. But that was malnutrition in its finest as far as infestation of parasites. And I think that so many of us, not just the people from Haiti or from third world countries, but this gentleman here on the right probably has several different kinds of parasites as well. So malnutrition in that form is actually from an infestation within the bowel. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But with what was happening with my other patient, she now has such bad diarrhea that she's unable, the integrity of her gut has dropped out, and it's the Lyme and the fungus is affecting her gut so much that she can't absorb. So we're going to go very slowly with her, just giving her some Tox-X and some things to stabilize her before we start to fight the infection that she has. So not eating enough of the good food, I kind of took a little side path there as I saw the little buddy here, but not eating good foods. Malnutrition is also when the foods you eat are not providing the necessary nutrients to the body, and that's what we have here in the United States. Our industrialized nation is a nation of fast food. Everything is moving quickly. We want to drive up, grab a quick bite to eat it at one of the fast food restaurants and devour it as we go. And it's just, there's nothing really there. And then also, you can't digest good foods. Other conditions is when the gut is not healthy enough to absorb nutrients. So in the U.S., obesity is more commonly a disease of malnutrition. Obesity is an issue of malnutrition. So the body is just, it can't digest the fats appropriately, so it's storing fats. The body is sensing, even though it's getting a lot of food, quote unquote, a lot of stuff that's occupying the stomach, it's not actually absorbing any of the good nutrients that it needs, and so it goes into a sense where it thinks that there is a famine, and so the body starts to put extra weight on. So with the patient I just finished up with, one of the things we're going to be doing then is to get good bacteria going in her stomach. She's going to be doing an aloe vera juice to help calm some of the inflammation in her gut, and some digesta to help her digest what she is eating. And she is eating good, proteins, chicken, fish, nuts and seeds, vegetables, steamed vegetables, and we went through and checked to see what she could eat and absorb. But it's important to go ahead and make sure that we're using the digesta to help with them to digest and break those carbohydrates, proteins, and fats down to an appropriate level, small enough particles that they can absorb those nutrients. So not eating good food, it's an absolute tragedy that there is so much hunger in the world when we have so much to give. So even here in the United States, they suggest 1 out of 5 children, roughly 16 million, struggle with hunger. Poverty, inequality, conflict, weather, agricultural practices all have an impact on our food supply. So think about that. That's a lot. There's much room for improvement. So the standard of living has dropped so much that people are having to decide whether they're going to eat or drive. So they might eat 1 meal a day instead of 4 or 3 squares. I suggest 6 mini meals. Eating too much. Gotta love this. That's of course a hot dog eating contest. I can't even imagine the stomach stretching that big. So eating too much can create lack of sleep, stress, can affect birth control. It can create fat. Sugars affect the brain, so many times you're eating too much because your body wants that carbohydrate for the brain because you're not getting complex carbohydrates, good sugars, so your body starts to look for bad sugars. It can affect emotion, depression, anxiety, and even affect postpartum with women. Wanting them eating the wrong foods can create postpartum depression. It can also affect the exercise. You're too heavy, so you don't want to exercise. Endocrine imbalances, blood sugar, eating disorders, bulimia. So this lady here will throw all that up when she's done, but she will at least win the contest. Hooray for her. Diseases, Graves, hypothyroidism, diabetes, nicotine dependence. So these are all issues that have some connection to eating too much. Not eating good food. So again, we've put in some McDonald's here, but they're the standard bearer of quick, fast food. So obesity is usually considered a condition of eating too much. However, like we discussed a minute ago, when the body is starving for needed good nutrients, it senses famine and begins to store fats in order to save the calories. So interestingly enough, here's a comparison, $27.87, and here's some decent food for $13.78. And people say, it's cost too much. It costs too much to eat good. Well, it doesn't if you're going to compare that. So health practitioners can be an influence to improve many clients' dietary habits by teaching them how to eat. And that's one thing we just suggest. Mini meals, many meals. So I'll tell patients, hold your palm together and put something that would fit in the palm of your hand. Cup your hands together. So maybe a couple pieces of chicken or a couple pieces of fish, some 3 or 4, 5, 10 almonds with some baby carrots, some other vegetables to go with that. Eat nuts and seeds, dried fruit as a snack in between. Nice salads, stir fries. So I kind of show my patients how to do that because so many of them just don't understand it. But I'll have them cut up vegetables enough that they can have that for 2 or 3 days and keep it in a Ziploc bag with a piece of paper towel so that it doesn't go mildewy. And then they're able to use that on their salads or stir fries or use that into their green smoothies. So all of those are just tremendous ways to get those vegetables down. So the vegetables, again, are providing good fiber, plus they have all the good vitamins and minerals as well. So one of my suggested natural diets, basically 50% vegetables, including grains. So if you're okay with grains, then that's okay. But so many of us have trouble with grain because of the GMOs of grain. But if you're okay, which not too many are, you can still do some grain, but of course whole wheat would be the best. But always check it. And how I have my patients check to see if they're reacting to it is I'll have them take their pulse before they want to eat the food that they're checking. So let's say we want to check a whole wheat bread. So check your pulse, so let's say it's 60. Have the piece of whole wheat bread, and then 10 minutes later, check your pulse again. If your pulse raises 10 points or more, then you're showing an allergen reaction to that. So 50% vegetables, 20% fruit, 20% protein with no more than 10% animal protein, and then 10% fats. So now this is through the day. So I don't mix the vegetables with the proteins. For example, I wouldn't have a piece of chicken with fruit salad. That doesn't digest well because proteins digest in acidic medium, fruits digest in an alkaline medium. So if you eat fruit, try to eat it alone. Usually either eat it alone or as a meal. If you eat it as a meal, then add some almonds or some nuts to it that will help it to slow down its digestion. So whenever you eat animal protein, make sure that you eat it with vegetables. Try not to eat it with carbohydrates. So for example, a chicken sandwich doesn't work well because it's simple carbohydrates, usually mixed with white bread, and then a heavy protein. So breads are digested in an alkaline medium, proteins are digested in an acid medium. You can't have acid and base together. They'll cancel each other out, and then you get low digestion. So of the many perspectives and diets, I prefer to eat as natural as possible. So eat whole wheat instead of highly processed flours, and little things can add up. So little things all over here, little small things can definitely add up to, problems, if you will. Okay, enzymes in your food. Enzymes are naturally within our vegetables and fruit. Here's a great explanation of how an enzyme works. So after 7 days, this is what a banana would look like. So it starts to definitely digest itself, and it has that ability to digest. But when we take a Twinkie, love that, on day 7, still the same. On day 5 years, still the same. That's because of the preservatives. No enzymes, nothing to break it down. So digestion of foods is vital to make nutrients small enough for appropriate absorption through villi. Villi are the little fingers that reach into the gut and cause the digestive absorption area of your gut is actually the size of a tennis court. Because these little finger-like projections, when smashed flat, if you will, when spread out so that they're all flat, would cover the size of a tennis court. So if we can digest our foods, and that's why I've suggested to this patient I just finished up with, take the Digesta so that she can digest what she's eating, because she's literally one of the sickest I've seen in 23 years. So I definitely got her onto the Digesta to help her. She's eating every 2 hours. So I said, even split the Digesta up and either sprinkle it on your food or put a little piece of bread in the end of the capsule. So you're going to split the capsule in half, put a little teeny piece of bread in the end, like a cork, and then you use half. So she could take 3 Digesta and split it into 6, because she doesn't need a full Digesta with a teeny bit of meal that she was going to eat. So that's hopefully that can help you as well. So most foods contain their own intrinsic digestive enzymes, but as we age, our digestion ability diminishes by our age, is what they suggest. So I'm 52. 52% of my digestion is diminished. So you think about our older population when they go to the care centers. They're eating food that's been cooked and all the enzymes are killed. They don't have as much digestive enzyme, and now they're basically starving to death. Processed foods kill the natural enzymes because they're cooked. They're heated up and bottled and canned and jarred. Cooking raises temperatures that also kill enzymes and vitamins. So some of the sickest people that we found are people that live, for example, on a farm and eat only their own food that they've bottled, and they eat out of their bottling over the summer or over the winter, not fresh. It's not dehydrated or freeze dried. It's bottled, and they're not getting any nutrient. It's just basically dead food. So things that you can't digest, it comes down to 2 possible conditions. Either we're not consuming the right foods, or the gut is not healthy enough to absorb the nutrients present. So as we'll discuss in a minute, Coltrax is going to help to repair the gut, to make it so that it's not hyperpermeable, but it also, so it's going to shut off the gut. So over here, this is from one of our previous seminars, it's going to shut the hole off in the gut, but it's also going to support repair of the villi, so the villi can absorb more nutrient. So highly processed foods and the overuse of antibiotics and chemicals have led to numerous degenerative diseases that would have been eliminated with proper changes. So that's the idea. We got to get them eating the correct food, give them the correct nutrients to repair those digestive organs, and there you go. So refer back to the previously recorded webinar on leaky gut syndrome. This will give you a good idea of why that malnutrition is there. And that's a great little library that Inno-Vita is creating there. Lots of good webinars by me and other doctors as well that can help any questions that you might have. So again, poor nutrition, then over-processing the foods. Most wheat products have little or no nutritional value. Vegetables have less nutrition than they used to 50 years ago due to the over-farming. So now it takes many more servings of veggies to match the value of prior years because we've drawn the minerals out. and it's difficult. The only real way to do it, the best way to re-energize our soils is to compost, which is prohibitive in large farms. So we've basically drawn all those things out. So with degenerative digestion diseases or conditions, those would be like gastroparesis, or gastroparesis is where your bowel shuts down. It doesn't move. There's no peristaltic movement, so you can't get the absorption. Heartburn, GERD, acid reflux, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, colitis, celiac disease, lactose intolerance, diverticulosis, peptic ulcers, and hemorrhoids. All of those deal with nutrition and absorption and gut motility. So some of the statistics for all digestive diseases in the U.S., hospitalizations at 21 million in 2010. Mortality of 245,000 died in 2009 associating with diseases of digestion. Costs 141.8 billion in 2004. Surgical procedures, 20.4 million in 2010. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? So there's your statistic where you can go to find that. Percent of adults diagnosed with ulcers, 15.9. 70 million people in the U.S. are affected by digestive problems. Digestive disorders account for 104 million physician visits per year. You've got the keys, guys. You know what to talk to your patients about as far as what to eat, live foods, things that have nutrient in them. And when there's a leaky gut issue, you are the boss. You know exactly where to go. And if you don't, leaky gut syndrome is where you want to look at on previous webinars. So digestive diseases, deaths, and countries compared. So Hungary, 76.1 per 1,000 in 1998. So you can kind of look down here and see as, you know, how much died. And if you look down, you can kind of see as here where United States is 16th. That's just amazing. So it's amazing to think there's 16 or 15 other countries ahead of us. That's mind-boggling. Okay, so for treatment then, we want to look through layers of infection. You want to make sure the gut, and we're just going to basically, this is a treatment for leaky gut syndrome. We want to make sure there's no infections going on in the gut. So check for bacteria, metals, small parasites, large parasites, fungus, and virus. And if so, if you've got one of those showing up with your electrodermal scanner or your kinesiology or your complete digestive stool analysis, if you find those infections, you've got the infection fighter. Mixing that with these 4 supplements is phenomenal. Digesta supports the digestion of the body. Coltrax supports the colon and basically from the mouth to the anus. Pancreas supports the pancreatic enzymes, and that's where your amylase, protease, lipase. So the pancreas is actually what creates most of the digestive enzymes, besides the amylase in the mouth, and of course the bile helps to digest as well. So, and the liver G will support the liver and gallbladder and the processing of those nutrients. Vivaprofen helps to shut down the inflammation in the gut and reestablish good bacteria. Fluorescein is the big gun for replacing good bacteria. So Vivaprofen, anti-inflammatory, good bacteria. Fluorescein, overall good count of bacteria. And Fulvicava helps for absorption. This promotes electrochemical balance and making nutrients more readily available and absorbable. Fulvicava, and that comes from fulvic acid and kava. Leptera, for those people that are having troubles, and so that's what I'd suggest to anybody who's having troubles is Leptera, because it's very hypoallergenic, plant-based protein. It's instantized rice protein, has all the amino acids for cellular function. It has digestive enzymes and good bacteria. This is a phenomenal drink. I have it every morning for breakfast. And then as far as trying to shed weight for those that are having troubles on the extra weight, once they've cleared their gut and they've got the extra fat, they would use adipothin and metabol. So adipothin works with adipose endocrine role of fat storage, so that's the adipothin, and metabol aids regulation of carbohydrate and sugar consumption and emotional balance around eating. So that's the metabol. For dance is your vegetable and fruit phytonutrients and fiber that helps maintain healthy pH balance. Let me tell you guys, I'll have a scoop, and I've told you this before, but I'll have a scoop of Verdance with a scoop of IntegraCell with a little bit of an electrolyte drink that we have from another company, and I have that in the afternoon with 16 ounces of water. I'll tell you what, that's a pick-me-up. My mind clears. I've got more energy to handle the rest of my afternoon. So that's a great one. Chromium Comp, this works with minerals to balance blood sugar and reduce insulin spikes. So anytime you use chromium. CalComp is magnesium and calcium for enzymatic activity and muscle building. And last is Zinc Comp that promotes hormonal balance and enzyme protein production. So we've got a great 1, 2, 4, 5, 10 punch for working with malabsorption and overall malnutrition. So that's phenomenal. So protocol, again, always look down, make sure you do your kinesiology, but roughly 1 digested with each meal, up to 4 cold tracks. Basically, you can go up to 4 a day on most all of these. You think about that, it's true, and that's the big deal, as most people don't have the ability to absorb those nutrients because we're so hooked either on bad foods, Coca-Cola, whatever it is that's making, or antibiotics or whatever that's making our gut not absorbable. So there you're taking all those good, whatever it is, whatever nutrients you're taking, and if you can't absorb it, it's just it's expensive urine and feces. So that's a great point, and I wish more people could understand that food is the cure. So really think about doing your green smoothies between meals. Think about the Verdance and the IntegraCell. But again, just make sure leaky gut syndrome is not an issue with the patient. Because really, literally, if you want to set me up, I could take every disease you want to talk about, can go back to absorption and digestion and leaky gut. So that's such a very important topic. This topic was very basic. Malnutrition is oh well, I know what to do there. But when you think about it, this probably is one of the most important discussions that we've had yet to this point. Because if we can get them to understand, our patients, what to eat, why it's important to make sure their bowel is moving, that they're absorbing, that they're passing their bowel 3 to 4 times a day, that blows patients away when I tell them that needs to be moving that much so you can absorb your nutrients. Get them up, absorb what you can, dehydrate it, and move it out so you're not so toxic. But truly, nutrition is the key. It is our answer to our sickness.